I mentally prepared myself for when the needle trap showed back up, but sure enough, I was not prepared. As soon as I saw those dirty needles, yeah, this was my reaction.
Whew, that creeps me out so much my bones want to leave my body.
Hello. You don't know me, but I know you. I want to play a game. There is only one key to open the device. It's in the stomach of your dead cellmate. You better hurry up. Live or die. Make your choice.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to the road to Saw 10, where I'll be covering every Saw movie in the Book of Saw in honor of Saw 10 coming out September 29th. I've already covered the original Saw in this Road 2 series. That'll be linked in the eye in the right-hand corner. Go check that out if you are so inclined. But for right now, it is time to dive into Saw 2. Saw 2 picks up sometime, it is not specified how much, but sometime after the events of the first Saw, but with a slightly different cast. The movie follows Detective Matthews, played by Donnie Wahlberg. He is pretty much targeted by Jigsaw, and in a bit of a weird move on paper, Matthews is led straight to Jigsaw, and we find out that John Kramer is a very sick man. It is implied that from the flashbacks near the end of the first Saw. However, it is outright stated that, yeah, John Kramer's got terminal cancer and he does not have long. And neither does a lot of people.
Oh, yes. There will be blood.
Jigsaw has locked 7 other people, including Detective Matthews' son Daniel, into basically a Jigsaw house of horrors. It is not just one room, it is rooms plural. And they all have a connection to Detective Matthews in some form or fashion, and it is up to Detective Matthews to get his son out of there. This will be the first of many in the Book of Saw to be directed by Darren Lynn Bousman. He originally started directing music videos and had written a script for a movie called The Desperate and was trying to sell it to studios. It got into the hands of Lionsgate, and some of the studio heads there basically looked at it and said, "This is kind of Saw 2." And Bousman was so worried about that he thought that he would have been sued for plagiarism. But instead, Lionsgate actually liked the script, and they hired him to direct Saw 2, flying him out to Toronto about a couple months after they first discovered the screenplay. Initially, they wanted Leigh Whannell and James Wan back in their respective roles to do Saw 2 because the movie made about $100 million on a $1 million budget, so of course they wanted them back. However, they were working on Dead Silent for Universal at the time, so they were largely unavailable. Only Leigh Whannell would come back as kind of a script doctor of sort to kind of polish up Darren Lynn Bousman's writings, to grandfather it into the Book of Saw, to make them connect between Saw 1 and Saw 2. In my Saw review from last Friday, I said that the original Saw was a modern horror classic, and I stand by that. So, from what I have heard in my experience, and I have not seen all of the sequels yet, as of this recording I am up to 4, and so I am halfway there. But, from what I have seen, the sequels are honestly not as bad as I've heard some people say, and I'll be a defender of Saw 2 all day long, because this movie ramps up the traps and ramps up the violence, but in a way that makes sense, weirdly. And it really kind of acts as kind of the Rosetta Stone for the Book of Saw, basically painting out Jigsaw's line of thinking and why he does the things that he does. It really did help that Leigh Whannell came back to smooth things along and grandfather it into the Saw universe. Because I don't know what The Desperate would have looked like, but if it looks kind of like that, then I think it would have been considered a Saw copycat almost. Because most of the main characters, well, are shuffled off the mortal coil by the end of the original Saw, some new characters needed to be introduced. And this is the first appearance of Detective of Detective Matthews, played by Donnie Wahlberg, and I thought that he did a pretty good job here. They really nailed down the fact that, well, like I said in the first review, there are no saints in the Book of Saw, and in another movie, Eric Matthews would have definitely been the white meat babyface. He would have been the hero. But that's not really the case. The movie does a good job of showing that, yeah, he's in a really big pickle with his son, but he's also done some very shady things. And so it's kind of complicated to root for him. Tobin Bell returns as Jigsaw, and in my research I found that he was actually not obligated to return. He returned out of choice because he was so fascinated by the character that he said, yeah, I'll come back, why not? And also coming back is Shawnee Smith, who reprises her role as Amanda, basically the girl with the reverse bear trap in the first movie. And she was actually given a bit of a bonus that if the movie grossed a certain figure, she would be paid a 6-figure bonus. The movie made about $400 million on a $4 million budget. So yeah, Shawnee Smith made quite a bit of coin off of this movie. It also helped that she was quite good. As I mentioned, the traps do get ramped up in this movie, and the movie does a good job of basically grounding it in you from the very beginning. From the very first scene, we see somebody in a trap, and, well, let's just say it does not end well for that guy. Basically, it's a reverse death mask where you see him like this. There is a key literally in his eye, and he has to scratch his eye out in order to get the key. And he just basically gives up. And I'm like, dude, if there's a key in your eye, if there was a key in my eye, I'd be digging away. But no. And the mask closes in on him. He basically resembles Leonardo DiCaprio from The Man in the Iron Mask. With a lot less blood, though. And what I like about the movie is that all of the victims in Jigsaw's House of Horrors, I will call it, they're all tied to Detective Matthews in some fashion. Whether it's Daniel, who is his son, or they just have a connection being that Detective Matthews did some shady stuff to dispose of them. Not kill them, but just get them off the street and into the clink, if you will. Some of them are more honorable than others. There is a drug dealer in the movie who I did not personally care for. I feel like that was the intention, but I did not like this character one bit. But again, from here on out, you can kind of trace what Saw 2, with Saw 2, just what the motif was going to be. The traps are basically going to be personally designed as kind of poetic justice, if you will. And Jigsaw talking both sides of his mouth, saying that he's not a killer and he only does these things to show people what they're missing in life, when in reality, it's kind of like the whole adage of you point a finger at somebody, but 3 fingers point back at yourself. Basically, under the surface, Jigsaw is a bitter man. And I would argue, like I said, that this movie is of equal quality to the first. A bit of a step down. I would definitely place this Saw and then Saw 2, but just barely. I would still give this a great rating, but a very high great rating. Definitely not as good as the first Saw. The mystery is a little easier to guess this time around, but that's by no means like saying the movie is bad. Far from it. And the twist, I would argue, is just as good as the original. This is a bit of a spoiler warning. I am going to talk about the twist at the end, so jump to this point if you want to skip this part. The big twist of the movie is it was Amanda. It was Amanda all along. Basically, Amanda has turned into Jigsaw's disciple of sorts. Basically, when she survived, she became Jigsaw's henchman or henchwoman, and basically is helping him carry out his life's work, so much so that at the end, she leaves Eric Matthews in the same room in which Lee Winnell's character Adam was left in, and she does the whole game over thing at the end and leaves Detective Matthews in there seemingly to rot with, well, let's just say only the most colorful language.
Game over.
I'll fucking kill you!
I'll leave it off with this. For a movie called Saw 2, a sequel to what is considered torture porn, This was 1,000 times better than it had any right to be. But I pass it off to you. What did you think of Saw 2? Let me know in the comments. Love to read what you have to say. And stay tuned for next Friday, where I will be continuing my journey into the Book of Saw by covering Saw 3. But if you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, click the bell to allow notifications, so when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.